The Golden Hour Birth Podcast, a podcast about real birth stories and creating connections through our shared experiences.
Childbirth isn't just about the child. It's about the person who gave birth, their lives, their wisdom, and their empowerment.
We're Liz
And Natalie,
the Golden Hour Birth Podcast, and we're here to laugh with you,
cry with you,
and hold space for you. Welcome to the Golden Hour Birth Podcast. I am your co-host, Liz.
and I'm your co-host, Natalie. And tonight we have Jessica from St. Louis on, and she'll be sharing the birth of her daughter. Thanks so much for coming on tonight, Jessica.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Never showed like the whole story in full format, so I'm excited to share tonight.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
So if you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about you and your family.
Yeah. So it's me and my husband, Matt. We met, reconnected in 2016, married in 2020. We have two cats, Toby and Lucy, and then a dog, Petey, who is our original fur baby. He's the love of my life outside of Matt and Ellie now, but he's the best. So yeah, it was the, 5 of us before Ellie came, and she joined us in February of 22.
Awesome. So what was like deciding to start a family?
We knew at some point we wanted to have kids. Ellie came a lot faster than we anticipated. We were actually, we just put our house on the market in May of 21. We moved in with Matt's parents in their basement. So it was all of us in their house, the two of them. I went off birth control in that December. I've been on it for 13 years, and you always hear like people, it takes years for their body to get ready. So I was like, we'll get off it, give my body some time to adjust. And my cycles were never regular coming off of it. So I tried tracking and, doing all those things, but it's, cycles are 45, 60 days long. It's hard to kind of track and know what's going on with that.
Yeah.
So in June, I was at like my third cycle being 60 days long. And from calling my doctor previously, they said, after 3 off cycles like that, we'll do some testing and kind of see what's going on. But I also knew every time I called, they would always be like, have you taken a pregnancy test? So I knew like I would have to take one before I called again. And there was one night I remember I got like this huge pimple on my chin, I don't ever really break out. And like most women, I like took a snapshot or a Snapchat of it and like sent it to all my friends. I was like, cool. And my sister responded back and she's like, are you pregnant? Because I get that every time that I found out. I was like, no way. Like there's no way I'm pregnant. My cycle's like, I'm probably not even ovulating. Well, a few days later, I got the test, took it, and it was positive. And I was like, oh, okay. At this point, Matt works in construction, so he was already gone for the day. So I took the second test because obviously, had to make sure. And it was also positive. So as soon as my doctor opened that day, I called and, they got me in the next week. So that whole morning, I was like, I knew I wasn't going to text Matt like, hey, by the way, while he's trying to do construction work. So I was working at home that day. So when he got home, he was working on his truck or something in the garage. And I was like, hey, whenever you have time, will you just come in here? And so he came in about 5 minutes later and I was just at my desk and I pulled off. I had like a piece of paper covering the 2 tests and I pulled it off and he just kind of stared at it and then looked up at me and stared at him again. He's like, so what does that mean? I was like, means we're pregnant. And he just kind of stared at it for a little bit and he like did like some spirit finger kind of thing and like high-fived me. And he was like, all right. I was like, okay, not the reaction I thought I was going to get, but that's fine. I knew I caught him completely off guard because it's not like we were trying or expecting anything to happen. So when I went to the doctors the following week, I was almost 8 weeks for this ultrasounds and everything. So we probably got pregnant like that first weekend. We were in the in-laws basement. So oops, but that's just how it went. So little little unexpected. But it was fun to kind of find out and then, have to figure out how to hide it from everyone for a while. But it was good.
Yeah. That's so nice that you didn't have to hide it as long. And then just the fact that he did spirit fingers, just incredible.
I recorded it and I ended up having his back towards the camera because I just kind of threw my phone up real fast. But like you can see him kind of do like the little spirit fingers from behind us. So he's like, don't ever show anyone that. I was like, okay, but
I'm on camera.
I should have, but no, the high five. He was just like, all right. And I was like, okay, a hug, something. I don't know, just something a little more than a high five. But
he's like, my work here is done.
Yeah. We ended up telling his parents a few weeks later, just because obviously living with them, it's hard to hide some of the symptoms that come along with pregnancy that early. And so we told my mom the same night because I couldn't tell them and not my mom. Mm-hmm. And it actually turns out the Saturday after we told them, Matt and my mom were planning a surprise 30th birthday party for me. So that Saturday, I'm tired, whatever. Matt's like, get dressed, let's go do something. And like, it turns out this surprise parties, I have friends came in from out of town. I was like, everyone's drinking champagne and Bloody Marys. And I was like, oh no. And they were planning it before, obviously, they found out I was pregnant. But thankfully, since my mom knew, she like mixed all the drinks for us that day and like just made sure mine were all virgin. So I just had to like act like I was partying with everyone. But no one suspected much, I don't think. So I think we did a pretty good job of keeping it hidden for as long as we did. So yeah.
When's your birthday? You said you got pregnant in June?
So my birthday is actually in June, on the 17th. They didn't plan the party until like a month later in July. I don't know if it was just to throw me off or if it was just everyone's schedule. Like they made sure my two friends from out of town could come in. So I think just with everyone's schedule, like that was the first weekend it could happen. So probably a good thing I knew at that point. Otherwise it probably would have been not great, but it was good.
Yeah. I'm June 5th. That's why I was asking. I heard that you got pregnant. So I was like, oh, June, a June friend.
But yeah, and then from there, we just kind of kept it quiet and then started telling like the rest of our siblings and close friends. And then we announced it in August and it was smooth sailing really from there. I had some nausea, morning sickness in first trimester, but nothing terrible. There was like one day I ended up going home sick from work, but other than that, like it was overall pretty manageable. I worked out. I did everything I wanted to do throughout my whole pregnancy. I did start seeing a chiropractor in my second trimester. So anyone local, Keo Chiropractic is wonderful. And they kind of just helped make sure everything was good and was able to work out and kind of do everything I wanted to. We finally bought a house in October. So we were at the in-laws house for about 6 months. So that was fun moving. I was like 24 weeks pregnant, kind of moving everything in and, being me, like I was just like lifting boxes and doing everything. And my father-in-law said, stop doing that. I was like, it's fine. Like I can lift something. Like obviously I'm not going to lift heavy, but I was like, I can lift a box or two. It's all right. So, just kind of got settled into the house. Kind of started enjoying just kind of like the last like Christmas by ourselves and New Year's by ourselves and spent a lot of time with Petey because I knew like that was my big thing throughout pregnancy. Like I'd just lay in bed and like pet him and cry. Like it's never going to be the same. Like just, hormones and everything. But just really the rest of pregnancy was pretty smooth sailing. Like obviously you have those days where it's like it hurts and things are just, you're tired and you're emotional. But I'd say overall, like I really enjoyed it. It was pretty good. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Why do I feel like we have so many people who said that they moved like when they're pregnant? Because Liz was like 8 months pregnant.
Mary. Yeah, Miriam was pregnant.
Yeah.
Her first.
Yeah. Just the way the real estate market's been for the last few years, like you kind of had to move and take advantage. So
yeah. When you find a house, you just gotta grab it.
Yeah. Especially when you're in your in-laws' basement, it's like, okay, I'm not bringing my baby home here. We gotta find something. So
we've been there.
Yeah.
So if you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about your birth story.
Yeah. So kind of when we started our weekly appointments at like 36 weeks, they checked me and they were always like, she's head down, she's perfect. Like we're all like, everything looks good. We went over signs of when to go in or call them or, whatever. And at my 38-week appointment, I went in and it was actually my doctor that checked me that time instead of like the nurse practitioner or the other doctors. And she said the same thing, like head down, all good. And then she was still examining me and then like she kind of moved a little bit and you could see this look on her face. And she was like, so I just kind of moved and you can feel space and no head. And I was like, okay. And she's like, so let's just do an ultrasound and see what's going on. And she was like, no big deal. Like, we'll just check. And I was like, okay. So we went to the ultrasound room and she checked and it turned out it wasn't her head they were feeling, it was her butt. So every time they thought it was her head they were feeling, it was always just her butt. And she just happened to move enough to feel the open space. So we found out she was frank breech. So her feet were up on my right side. Her head was over on my left side. Her butt was straight down. And I was not prepared for that in the slightest. We did birthing classes for a natural birth. I did the chiropractor the whole time to make sure like I was all aligned. Like I worked out to make sure I could do the labor. And this was still like COVID restriction just kind of came back at that point. So Matt wasn't able to get the appointment with me because it was just like a routine appointment. So I was by myself and like crying to my doctor. And she was very like empathetic and receptive. And like, she's like, I know you're really upset. She goes, but it's okay. Like we found this out now instead of when you're in the middle of labor. And she's like, so we can do this. She did measure my fluid and I didn't have enough fluid to try a manual flip. So she told me I could try burning some moxibustion. I don't know if you guys heard that. Yeah.
I did that. Nellie did that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. She's like, try to find this. You can burn it, see if that helps. She goes, but we can't do anything medically. And so I, sat there and I cried. And so she's like, we're going to schedule an ultrasound for this weekend because I would be 39 weeks on that Saturday. So they gave me like all the information and everything. And they're like, we'll call you tomorrow once we can check the hospital schedule and my schedule and figure it out. And so I held myself together like while I walked through the waiting room because I was like, you don't want to cry. Just people get worried. And I was like, okay. But as soon as I got in my car, like I just started bawling. And I was like, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I expected. Like going into like the last 2 weeks, you're like, it's great. Like everything's smooth. So I remember texting Matt because I knew I couldn't talk. And I was like, I'm fine. She's fine, but she's breech. We're having a C-section this weekend. Like, I'm not okay emotionally. I'm fine physically. And like, so he's like, do you want to go to your mom's? Because she lived right by the doctors. And I was like, no, I'm just going to come home. He's like, wait till you're done crying and then come home. So made it home. And then, of course, started crying as soon as I got back to him. So I called my sister because she just had her second in November. So 3 months before me. Since she's like, it's fine. Like, we're going to get through this. And like, gave me a good old pep talk like sisters do. So I texted the girl that was doing our birthing class with us because she was a doula also. And I just kind of told her situation. She's like, go to Spinning Babies, do these inversions, call your chiropractor tomorrow, see if they can get you in. And we had our last class the next day. She's like, we'll go over C-section stuff during class, but, kind of talk about the options. So the next day I got into the chiropractor. I called them at 8 right when they opened. They're like, we can get you in at 8:30. I was like, see you in 20 minutes. I was like, I'm on my way. So they got me in, cried to them also. But it was my chiropractic, said something, I was telling her, I was like, this isn't what it was. But I'm glad she's healthy and I'm glad, we're both okay. And she's like, you don't have to justify your feelings. You can be upset and not justify them at all. And that really kind of just helped me feel all those emotions and not just be like, but it's fine. We're healthy. We're all going to be okay. Yeah. And that even postpartum just like that just helps me know like, it's okay. You can feel this, but not have to make it okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they were able to get me in basically every day that week just to kind of see what they could do. They also did acupuncture on me every day. So I was doing that. The office where our birth classes was, they had the moxibustion. So I got that during class and then burned that twice a day, every day. I was taking warm baths just to where the water went to the bottom of my stomach and put an ice pack on the top to try to get her to flip towards the warm. I put a flashlight down there. I talked, put my phone on a speaker. Like I tried everything to try to get this girl to flip, but she's got her mom's stubborn attitude and stayed just exactly where she wanted to. So they called that, like the next day and said, Sunday at 7 a.m. is going to be your C-section or, so be there at 5. I was like, perfect. Okay. Went through all the prep stuff. So Saturday we did like all the grocery shopping, ordered from like 3 different places to make sure we had everything we would need. We did all the laundry. We cleaned the house, had a nice steak dinner at home. And then we took Petey over to my in-laws and leaving him there, like just started making me bawl again. Because I was like, if next time I see him, like it's not going to be just him as a baby. And on our way home, it was about 10:30. I felt what I thought was a Braxton Hicks contraction because I was having some before. And I was like, oh, okay. And then like a half hour later, I kind of got another one. I was like, no big deal. And then like 15 minutes. And then it was like every like 10 minutes. And I was like, it's fine. Like we're scheduled for tomorrow. Like, let's just get some sleep. First time on, labor's take forever. So we're good. So I always joke. I was like, letting my dog go to his in-laws was what put me in labor. Like just that emotional turmoil of that. So we went to bed at like 11 o'clock and I woke up at about 1:30 with more intense contractions. But I was like, I know Matt went to sleep because in birth class, like they're like, what do you need to be the best supportive partner for your wife? And he's like, I need to be fed and I need to be rested. So I was like, okay, let him sleep. Let him sleep. He's all right. I'm still fine. So I kind of just laid in bed for a while. And then I went into the bathroom, which this is something that was not talked about a lot in classes or the books, but like my body just wanted to get everything out of me to make sure it had room to push the baby out. Mm-hmm. So if anyone's getting ready for that, just be prepared for that part of labor. Everything comes out. Everything. Mm-hmm. So I started, I actually re-downloaded today the app I was using for my contractions counter because I was like, they said, 5 minutes apart what was it? Yeah, 5 minutes apart for 1 minute each for an hour. And then that's when you go. So I was just counting them just to make sure like we were still okay. And just me being my literal self. Like if one of them was like 6 minutes out, then I was like, oh, I've got to start the hour over. Like it doesn't count anymore. So, and now I'm looking at them. They were all like a minute or a minute and a half long. They were like 5 to 6 minutes apart. And I knew every time it came up 6, I was like, start over. And I was like, no, I'm looking back. I'm like, that was not smart to do. So I was in there for a while. I have a picture of my cat, Toby, our fat cat. He was in there like meowing, like, I'm hungry, feed me. And I was like, I'm a little busy, buddy. Like, wait till dad gets up. And then I think finally around like 3:30, I woke Matt up and I was like, I think we need to go ahead and go early. Cause I was like, we have to be there at 5 anyway. So it's fine. And I was being stubborn thinking like she flipped, like it's fine. Like she flipped. That's why I went into labor. Like it's beautiful. So he showered and I like rinsed my belly off like you're supposed to do with the special wash and everything. He's like, aren't you supposed to shower? And I was like, I cannot right now. Like at this point, like contractions were every 5 minutes, if not less, pretty strong. And I was like, just do what you need to do. I'm going to be downstairs. Like we got to go. So we've left, I think we left the house around 4, and then we got to the hospital around like 4:20, 4:30. Had to go into the emergency room since it was still so early in the morning. I remember walking in, I was just bent over on the counter, and I was like, I need to go up to labor and delivery. And she's like, okay. And so she called out there. She's like, we have someone here who thinks she's in labor. I was like, I can promise you I am in labor. Please send them down now. So they brought the wheelchair down and brought me up, and they had like, I was like, I'm supposed to be here for a C-section at 5. I went into labor last night. Like, my doctor's like, if I go into labor, I need to come in because if the cord, prolapses or anything. And I of course, wasn't thinking about that the whole 3 hours. I was in labor at home. I was like, it's fine. But then like, you do all this paperwork ahead of time. And then there's all this, they were like, we need your signature here and here. And I'm like, I cannot. So I just literally scribbled on all these papers. So I was like, I can't do any of this right now. So finally after all that, they take me to the room. They're like, get in the gown. We'll be right back and we'll get everything going. So Matt helped me get in the gown. And so I was kind of in bed, like just moving into whatever position like felt comfortable. And he just keeps walking in the hallway. He's like, where did everyone go? Is anyone working tonight? Because like it took 15 minutes for them to like come back into the room. And I know he was like, he can't do the whole like watch me in pain thing. So I think he was just like, had to go do something productive in his mind. So they finally came in, or one nurse came in, and then she started asking me more of the questions and the paperwork stuff. And at this point, I'm like, and all fours on the bed, like the gown's open, and Matt's like trying to like cover it up. I was like, it's fine. I was like, just let it go. Like at this point. And then so like 10 minutes after she came in, some other nurses came in. They started getting me on my IV. They called my doctor and then the doctor that was on to come check me to see kind of what was going on. And then that took like another 10 minutes. And then after he checked me, I never heard how dilated I was, if they even checked that or if they just, because he did the ultrasound, it was like, she's breech. And I was like, I know, like, let's do something about it. Because it was like, I don't want anything bad, But they put the monitors on and she was still, everything was good. My doctor came in and she's like, I told you not, like you had to come in right away if you went into labor. I was like, I know, but I didn't. So here we are. Everything's fine. And then, so after that, it kind of sped up a little bit with the kind of process of everything. Anesthesiologist came in. He got me all set up. At this point, the contractions were like at the point where I was like, I need to push. I was like, so we probably need to do something. I was like, because I like my body is pushing for me. Like oh my God. So I was probably pretty close. So sitting still for the epidural was like the hardest part because I was like, I have to move. Like I can't just sit here. It didn't hurt at all, but that was also probably because I had other things taking my mind off the pain of that.
That hurt a little worse.
That came in, then I relaxed. And I remember telling Matt, I was like, we have another one and they're not breached. Like, just tell me to get the drugs because this is much better. I was like, it's fine. Although now that I say that, I was like, no, I was probably pretty close already. Like I can probably do it again. But so Matt got all of his scrubs on, so they took us back. And from there, it was just a normal, our anesthesiologist was awesome. He kind of like was telling me everything that was going on. He's like, you guys want pictures of the actual like birth part? And Matt did not want to see any of it. So he took pictures for us of everything. So I have that. And he's like, okay, here she comes. And like, I could feel the tugging and everything. And her coming out, and then she just started crying, and then I was crying, and it was beautiful. So Matt went over and looked at her while they were doing, cleaning her up and sectioning and everything, and first thing he says is like, oh, she has my chin. Because he has like one of those like dimpled chins and she has it. And I was like, of course she does. She's going to look just like you, I'm sure. So then he brought her over to me. We got our family pictures and otherwise it was all good after that. They got me all sewn up and moved back to the table or the regular bed, and they gave me to her and I held her while they rolled us back into our room. And as soon as we were in there, it was skin to skin and breastfeeding, and she latched right on. So she was a pro at breastfeeding. We never had issues throughout our whole 14-month journey of it. So I always said, I was like, that was God's gift. I had to have the C-section. So here's a good breastfeeding baby. Like that's the trade-off. I was like, so I'll take it. So recovery went really well. I think just kind of staying active throughout the whole thing really helped with that. So if anyone out there was super scared of a C-section like I was, it's not the end of the world. Obviously it hurts. There's recovery, but there's also that with the vaginal birth. So just know it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of your fitness career. So it's you can still bond and breastfeed and everything with your baby like you can otherwise. But yeah, after that, everything was we stayed in the hospital until Wednesday. And by the time we left, she was already back over birth weight. So we were thriving. We were doing good then.
Good.
Yeah.
Hearing just you finding out that she was breached alone. You went to the car and cried, and then oh my, it was just like putting me back right in my position because I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah.
And then calling everyone, calling your sister. I called my sister. I called Liz. I called my doula from my first birth and acupuncture, chiro, moxibustion. Yeah. Yep. The whole 9 yards.
Yeah. Did everything. And that's not to say also obviously, babies still flip and they can. And just because I couldn't do it, just because, someone else can. I had a friend who bent over to tie her shoe 2 days before she was supposed to go into a scheduled C-section and her baby flipped. So yeah, just little, it just different babies want to do different things. So it can happen. So don't everyone get scared about that either. So.
Yeah. So how was postpartum from there?
I'd say pretty just routine as far as with breastfeeding. Obviously, I had to do all the night feedings and everything. I remember there was one morning Matt was getting ready for bed and I was just rocking her back to sleep and I was just crying because I was just so tired. But I would say by 10 weeks she was sleeping from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or sorry, 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. That would have been a long stretch. But, it's so short-lived. And in the moment, you're always just this is awful. I'm never doing this again. How do people do this? And now, you look back, you're it wasn't that long. You get through it.
Yeah.
I will say, I probably did have a little postpartum anxiety, just wanting to startle everything. Obviously schedules are good and that helps the baby, but I was always on the minute, she starts eating now. Okay, 3 hours from now, she has to start eating exactly at that point. And, I was always I have to do the feedings because at least for the first 4 weeks, because I don't want to mess this up and can't use a pacifier and all these things. And, so I was I think just wanting to be the perfect, and that anxiety just kind of came out with that. So it was definitely, it was hard to ask for help or accept the help that was being offered. And you're always no, I can do it. I got this all so that's always kind of my big advice to people is just, it's okay to ask for help. Take the help, ask for what you need, and be specific. Cause if I would just be oh, Matt, can you kind of just pick up the house a little bit? But if I'm just I need the kitchen, I need this, and this done, he would do it. But if I was just I'll pick up the house, he'd do something in a different room. But I'm no, not that way. No, do this. So sometimes you just have to be very specific about what you need help with. But Matt was great. He did, he had to go back to work pretty much right away. But when he was home, you know, he always just want to hold her, like lay on the floor with her and bonded with her. And, or just, you know, you go shower, I'll take her for a little bit, you know, just little things like that. So, overall, it was really good. And then I went back to work at about 12 weeks. And at that point, she was sleeping basically, I'd say from like 9 to probably 6 or 6:30. So we had a pretty good routine down. We had a big regression around like 5 or 6 months. And that was rough on both of us because it was mostly waking up in the middle of the night and she just would not go back down. She would cry every time we like let go of her and like put her in the crib, or she'd wake up super early. And so we finally we did the taking care of babies newborn course, which I think is why she slept so well then. So then we just got the next level finally in like September. I was like, we need sleep because we were both just like exhausted. And it took like one night of just kind of doing the program, and then she was back to sleeping through the night, and she's been a good sleeper, knock on wood, ever since then. So we have a good routine with everything. So
good.
Yeah.
How was your dog when you brought her home? And
so the day she was born, Matt did take like the hat and blanket over to him. And he didn't really pay much attention to it because he was just like, "Oh, Dad," like, you know, so excited to see him. But as soon as we brought him home, we brought Ellie home, and then Matt went to go get PD. That way we were already here. I made sure she was like, I think we had her in the swing. That way I wasn't holding her when they came in, so I could like love on him and like give him all my attention. And then I think we showed him, and he just started licking her. And so they're best buds now. He's actually laying right over here with me. But like all during maternity leave, like I'd be sitting on the couch nursing her, like he'd be on my lap, like just all the babies in mom's lap at all times. So he did really well with the transition. He's very patient with Reba now. I guess she's starting to like, you know, trying to learn how to pet and be gentle. He just sits there and he takes it like a champ. So he's the best dog. So it's good.
How old is he?
He will be 6 in August.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
what a sweetie.
Yeah. So he's about 4.5 when she was born. But no, we do everything. We walk, you know, take them both for walks pretty much every day, at least when I'm working from home or on the weekends. But no, we try to make sure he gets included in everything still, because he's still our baby. The cats don't really pay much attention to her one way or the other. So she knows how to say kitty. So she'll say, "How kitty," and try to get them, and they just kind of run out of the room. So, but I'd rather have that than like try to swat at her or something. But all three of them are really patient with her. So it works.
Oh, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Well, amazing. Is there anything else that you want to add, or do you want to tell people about your Instagram fitness?
Yeah. I am on Instagram as Jess Living Well, so JESS Living Well. I am a certified trainer and health coach, and then I am certified for pre and postnatal fitness. So especially like when I was pregnant, I was sharing a lot of what I was doing, like pregnancy safe moves and how to modify things. And then postpartum, like the recovery of it with your pelvic floor and just like breathing and how to kind of work your ab muscles kind of back. So still kind of post on that every day. Well, not every day, I try to. And then right now, just kind of with kind of like the stress and everything of, I guess, postpartum and just that anxiety. I did have some kind of just health issues come up. So we ended breastfeeding at 14 months. If I could have, I probably would have gone longer, we probably would still be doing it. But I had to stop doing that so I could take the medicine and things that I needed to kind of work through all that. So I'm sharing kind of that journey now with everything. But yeah, I just have a lot of information just about general fitness more so now, but still have like all the highlights and reels of everything of the postpartum and prenatal fitness. So I'm always happy to help with those for anyone that has questions on it.
A lot of C-section moms don't really think about like their pelvic floor after, it's all about the abs, but it's all like connected. So, that's important.
And a lot of, since I didn't push, like there's nothing, but still just carrying that weight and that pushing down on the pelvic floor, like it's, can stretch it out. They actually think mine just being so tight could have been one of the reasons why she never flipped. Like there just wasn't room for her to flip. So I'm making sure like I'm doing a lot of work on that so that if we do decide to have another one, that hopefully I can go the natural way this time. But
yeah, I would be so interested to know how many centimeters dilated you were, just because that you said that you felt that pressure. I'm like,
woo. Yeah, because right when they were giving me the epidurals, I was like, I have to push. They're like, you can't. I was like, my body's doing it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I can feel myself trying to like evacuate this baby out of me. So this is why I told you guys to hurry up when we first got here. I was like, know what's going on. So let's go. But yeah, I wish I would have asked at one point. But at that point, like everyone, there's probably like 5 nurses in the room all trying to like get me hooked up. And like, I was like, I wish you would have done this a little sooner so we could have not be in this rush. But I think that's just kind of how it goes at like every birth. Like it's just kind of going on. Then all of a sudden, like everyone's in the room and everyone's doing this and like you're pushing or, getting ready to go back. So it was a blur at that point because I kept asking Matt. I was like, anything you want me to make sure like we talk about in the story? He's like, I don't know. It's kind of just a whole blur. And I was like, yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yep. You look back and like the whole first year is just a blur.
Oh,
you're like, what happened?
Yeah. That's what I'm like. Every time everyone's like, oh, how's your daughter? I was like, oh, she's good. She's 16 months now. And they're like, what? I was like, how is that possible? I was like, yeah, I don't know either. But she is. So, and especially I think after 2, I'm sure you guys can more attest to that than I can, but just after 2, it probably just even goes by even faster.
Yes. Yeah. I just started putting away our 3-month clothes and I'm like, right, how did I get here?
Yeah.
On to 6 months.
I know. Every time I put a new box up, I'm like, how are we here already? It's crazy. Got to get out a whole new set of clothes like every 2 weeks, I feel like. So,
yeah. So fast. Any advice you wanted to share for new moms or anyone going through postpartum anxiety or like healing from a C-section?
Yeah. I'd say going into it just during pregnancy, I think the more just kind of in your routine you can stay, you can walk, if you can lift weights, obviously safely, drink water, stay hydrated, eat good foods. I think that helps so much in recovery, no matter what kind of birth you have. For C-sections specifically, like you have to be patient. Like you might feel great sitting there and you're like, oh, I can go work out. And then you stand up and you're like, no, there it is. There's that reminder. So just kind of take it slow. Really the first few weeks, once you are kind of ready to work out, it's mostly like just breathing exercises and learning how to kind of reconnect everything again. And then really for like the anxiety, it's, talking to someone. Like I found a counselor. I try to meditate every day just to kind of help kind of slow my brain down at one point. Getting outside. I think taking the walks and just kind of being out in sunshine helps so much with us. That's always I heard it one time and it's my biggest piece of advice to everyone. If the baby's upset, you take them outside or you put them in water. And the same thing applies for mom. If you're stressed, get in a bath, take a shower, go outside, do something. Like
Yes.
Those two things always just cure everyone. So
couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do that with kids, but I never really thought about it for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like the hard part of having a January baby though.
Yeah.
And like, you guys both have February babies. It's like, man, I would have taken her outside right away, but it was so cold still.
We had some it was that January or February, we had some randomly warm days, 2 weeks. I think when she was 2 weeks old, we took our first long walk because I would go out and kind of do the street down and back. And that was all I could do at that point.
Yeah.
But around 2 weeks, I remember we took her, we have a little park by our house that has a not even a mile lap around a lake. And we took her out. Matt was just holding her bundled up in a blanket, and someone walked by and they're like, "Oh, how old?" We're like, "Oh, 2 weeks." They're like, "Wow." We're like, it's a nice day. We want to get her up, and so that helped. But definitely, anytime we took her out, she was usually bundled up because I was I have to get out at some point, just a little bit. So I always, or at least, if she was napping, I would just stand on our deck, just stand there for 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, sunshine, I'm good. Let's go back.
Hit me.
Yeah, just do your thing, please.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to share?
I don't think so. I was really excited to do this. Ever since I've had her, I'm just obsessed with all things babies and birth and breastfeeding and all the things. So I love talking about it with other people. So I've shared a lot of our journey with everything on Instagram too. So you can always go back and look at those.
Yeah. Well, we love hearing it. I love every birth story. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing it.
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to do it. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll link all your socials in the show so people can find you.
Yeah, definitely.
But thank you so much for coming on, and
take a look at our website. And if you want to be a guest, fill out our guest form. And we have our Facebook circle. So the Golden Hour Facebook circle. So, if anyone's interested in becoming a guest there and continuing our conversations, let us know.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Golden Hour Birth Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our discussion and found it insightful and beneficial. Remember, the Golden Hour Birth Podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you. If you appreciate the content we bring you each week, consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform or sharing the show with your friends and family. Your support helps us reach more people and continue creating valuable episodes. If you have any questions, suggestions, or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach us on our website, www.goldenhourbirthpodcast, or connect with us on social media. We value your feedback and want to make sure that we're delivering the content you want to hear. Before we sign off, we'd like to express our gratitude to our incredible guests who joined us today. We are honored that they trust us enough to be so open and vulnerable. We're grateful for their time and willingness to share their stories with us. If you're interested in taking the conversation further with us, join us on our Facebook group, The Golden Hour Birth Circle. We'll be back next week with another exciting episode, so be sure to tune in. Until then, stay golden and remember to take care of yourself. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Golden Hour Birth Podcast. Bye!